Hey, day 4 of cerebral palsy awareness and who Macy is and things like that. So today, let's see, I don't know where we left off yesterday, but today we were going to talk about some procedures that Macy's had over time. Very early, I'm going to say between the 1 year mark and the 2 year mark, Macy had an eye surgery. We had noticed that one eye was starting to pull inwards, and that can be very much indicative of the muscle tone and things like that, trying to pull that eye. We did the patching for a long time, where you would patch the good eye for several hours a day to try to strengthen the eye that's pulling, trying to work that muscle, trying to get her to focus on things opposite of the direction that the eye was pulling. We did that for quite a while, and our eye doctor, we saw a I don't ever remember if it's optometrist, ophthalmologist, but he's a surgeon, eye doctor surgeon, and he decided that after a while that we just needed to go in and do surgery. And just very simply, I'm not a medical person at all, so my terminology is never going to be accurate. Just clip that muscle. Just clip that's pulling. And, you know, even at almost 24 years old, every once in a while when she's tired, you'll see a little drift. If she's trying to focus on something real hard, you'll see a little awkwardness. Sometimes when she's looking at you or she's trying to focus in on something, one eye kind of looks almost a little blank, like the other one is doing all the work. Macy does have glasses, but for crying out loud, everybody in the family does. Our eyesight, our vision in general is all horrible. So that was her first procedure. After Macy potty trained so quickly and so easily, a couple of years down the road, we started having some accidents. I'm going to say she was probably 4-ish, maybe 3. I don't really remember. Maybe it was around the 4-year-old, where your bladder is a one-way street. Macy's became a 2-way street. And when that causes backup into the kidneys, and that causes bacteria to set up and infection and things like that. Again, my medical terminology is not right. She's had 2 bladder defluxes. One, I think it just didn't take properly, so she had her second one not too long after the first one. And those were early toddler years. We used to do Botox injections in her calves to loosen up the calf muscle, to loosen up the heel cord, because it would pull her feet so tightly to where there was never any way that she could bear weight on them, because of how they were in such a contracted, fixed position. So we did Botox for quite a while. She took baclofen for a muscle relaxer. We were approached by our neurologist about installing a baclofen pump, which would be permanent. We did a trial of that, and we did not like what we saw after that. Macy, and I know there's wiggle room and there's ways to play with it and fix it and get it just right, but she was literally limp spaghetti. She went from tightness and increased tone to nothing. She couldn't do anything. She couldn't hold her head up. She could not do anything. I mean, she was literally just a noodle. And we weren't really okay with, sorry, interruption. We weren't really okay with doing an implanted device. We did change neurologist. He just kind of seemed a little disgruntled with us because we weren't willing to go that route. So over time we did change neurologist. Macy had a pretty major surgery at the 8-year-old, 9-year-old mark, somewhere in there. She had to have work done on her hips. Her hips were in danger of rolling out because of the pull from the inner thigh muscles, pulling so tightly on her legs that they were just causing her hips to almost roll out. She's had hip work done. We've done a release of the muscle on the inner thigh. We did a heel cord release, which was the best thing we've ever done. Her feet have been amazing since then, and she's almost 24. The heel cord release was amazing. She's had some work done on an ankle. This was all the same time. Work done on her thighs, her calves, her ankles, her hips, all one surgery. We did 6 weeks of rehab after that, but in between the surgery and the rehab starting, we came home for recovery, and during that time, Macy had her first seizure. Every kid with CP, everyone with a CP diagnosis has the possibility of having a seizure disorder, but they don't necessarily go hand in hand. When you've had some sort of trauma to the brain, some sort of lapse of oxygen, that's always a potential. We're going to say that Macy's was always there. It just hadn't been awakened. And anesthesia and surgery and the amount of work she had done and the recovery. When we came home, we were in cast from her hip to her ankles, and we had to sleep in wedges, and we were not getting sleep. Everyone was exhausted, and I think Macy just finally reached a breaking point with everything she'd been through and no lack of sleep and being uncomfortable. And she had her first seizure very early one morning, and we called an ambulance because we had no idea what was going on. And they basically told us at the emergency room, we don't know why she had a seizure. Anybody could have it. You could fall out on this floor right now and have a seizure, and we would not have an answer for it necessarily. And of course, that was not okay with me. But over time, I learned that it can just be hand in hand with her cerebral palsy diagnosis, and that once the brain seizes, it actually likes to do it. So that's why you got to get control with some medication. And our first medication that we ever took worked beautifully until it didn't work. She took it for a very long time, and technically we just kind of aged out of it. We had increased it as much as we could, and it just was not working for us anymore. So since the age of 8, we've only had to use 2 different seizure medications to control her seizures. And there's a breakthrough every once in a while where it's just time to go up on the dosage. We have not had to increase her dosage, and I'm going to say, knock on wood, 7 years maybe. And her neurologist says, I really don't even know this is working anymore based on her weight. She's on the lowest dosage possible. I really don't know if it's working anymore. Do you want to try taking her off of it? And of course my answer is no. It's not hurting her. It may not be helping her, but it is not hurting her, and we do not want to have any more seizures. We have gone a very, very long time without having any. Macy's had several EEGs done. We've done overnight stays. They've tried to force her to have seizures so they could see the activity during an EEG. She's not always that cooperative. Macy's always been a very healthy child, a very healthy adult. The surgeries that she has had were to correct things that, needed correcting. She's never had any other surgeries. She's never had to have her tonsils taken out or appendix taken out, anything like that. So we've been very blessed in that area. She takes a seizure pill every morning, every night. Take a muscle relaxer when we need to. If she has worked or exercised, or we've done a big stretch or something like that, and we'll talk about that later. But anyway, that's just kind of where we update kind of procedures that she's had done, things that have worked for us, and heel cord, definitely the best thing ever. It just worked for her. I got interrupted again. So what I was saying is, heel cord worked for her beautifully. It was great. It was fantastic. Best thing we've done by far. So that's kind of a rundown of what she's had done, and thanks for watching. And again, share with somebody you think that would benefit from hearing about this. Maybe that's somebody who's recently gotten a diagnosis for their child and just maybe needs a little encouragement, a little motivation to say, hey, everything's gonna be okay.